What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and today we are here to talk about my 2025 best romances. So I'm going to explain this. I sprinkled romance throughout my reading journey periodically, and I've done that for years. And some romances I've enjoyed, some romances I haven't. In 2025, I spent half of my year reading fantasy, sci-fi, all of the things, and then half of my year kind of diving into romance and figuring out what I like. And let me tell you how that journey started. So in June of 2025, I found out that this book, The Deal, by Elle Kennedy, which is a special edition, was coming out in July. And my thought process was, I love special editions, and I'm like, well, does this hold up? Because I read this years ago. I read the whole series, and it took me 4 years to read the series. And does that mean anything? I don't know. But I think it took me 4 years. It may have taken me 2 or 3 years. I don't know. It took me a while. But I really loved this specific book, which is The Deal, which is probably the first romance I've loved. So I said to myself in June of 2025, I said, well, let me read it to see if it holds up and if I need to buy the special edition. Sorry about my Target sticker. So I did. And I read this again. And then I wound up binging this whole series. And just realizing that I loved it. And then once I binged this series, I started reading other series. And then it didn't stop from there. Because, I don't know, it did something to my happiness, my mood. It increased it exponentially. And I will not put rereads on the best of the year list. But if I did, this would be on it. But I just love Garrett and Hannah. I think they are just a fantastic couple. So, but I wanted to bring this to the attention because this is like the GOAT of romance for me, and I wanted to just kind of tell y'all how I got into reading romance in 2025, and this is what started it when I was figuring out if I wanted to buy the special edition, and of course I did. So then it has a companion series, which I read all of those, which I hadn't read before. And then it has another spin-off series that the first book in the series follows the daughter of Hannah and Garrett from The Deal. That is going to be the first book of my favorites romances in 2025. That is going to be The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. I fell in love, of course, with Elle Kennedy. There's nothing she can do wrong to me in this universe. Well, except for the Charlie method, but that's a different story. But I absolutely ate this story up. This follows Hannah and Garrett's daughter. She is a hockey player, and of course her enemy hockey player on the guys team. They're gonna get into some things, and I really liked the direction that this went, and we do get some of Hannah and Garrett in this book. So that was a great thing, but very little snippets, and that's not why I enjoyed this book. I loved the characters and I loved the romance, and I really feel like Elle Kennedy knows how to write a romance and relatable characters, because I loved this. I loved this. And then I read the second book in the series, which follows Gigi Graham, her best friend, Diana, and we have the Dixon rule. And this is a enemies to lovers fake dating story, and I loved it. There are scenes in this book that live rent-free in my head, and Elle Kennedy is just, she's wonderful. And the next book in this series, then we have The Charlie Effect, which if you read my most disappointing reads of the year, it was in there. But we have the next book in the series that I think is following Hannah and Garrett's son. That's coming out, I think, sometime early this year. I will definitely be reading that as it comes out because phenomenal. So after I was reading all of those hockey romances, I just got into all the hockey things, and I was looking for series that I could read that were kind of similar to Elle Kennedy, The Deal, just a hockey series. So I picked up the DC Stars series. The first book is Face Off. I liked every book in this series, but this one particularly, Chef's Kiss, 100% loved it. My favorite in the series, 5-star read, that's going to be Hat Trick by Miss Chelsea Curto. And oh my gosh. So I would definitely recommend reading this series from start to finish. Like, yes, this can be read as a standalone, but again, I would suggest reading it from start to finish, because in the other earlier books, this is like book 4 in the series. In the earlier books, you see our main male character in here and how much he has a crush on our female main characters. So you see that throughout, even though it's just sprinkled in a little bit throughout the first 3 books in the series. And she knows he has a crush on her, and she's like, whatever. I don't care. For years, she's like, whatever. And something tragic happens, and he has to really, he has a lot of mental health problems. And then she comes in, and I'm not going to spoil the book, but obviously the picture on the cover kind of does. But I adored this. And Riley Mitchell is the love MMC. Like, okay, 100% read this series. This was my favorite. I did read the new one that came out in December of 2025 and liked that one as well. But this one still remains my favorite. Then I kind of was just reading sports romances, hockey, whatever. Hockey is still like because I feel like it has the most books written about it, but I was reading a lot of sports romances, and I picked up the series. This series starts with Burnout by Rebecca Dunshak, and then I proceeded to basically binge a lot of Rebecca Dunshak because I love her books and the way that she writes. And my favorite book by her to date is going to be Playbook by Rebecca Dunshak. And this, I would say it's enemies to lovers. It's not really an enemies to lovers, but this whole series, the one that starts with Burnout, I don't know what number book this is, actually, if I'm being honest. Second book? Third book? I don't know. But I think this is the second book. But I will say that it's a great found family. This whole series follows brothers and just awesome found family that she has written here. But basically this one is a pro football player and just a regular normal girl. This is kind of enemies to lovers to fake dating. So would recommend the whole series. This is just my favorite. I gave this one 5 stars. I adored it immensely and it entertained me thoroughly. So of course I'm still reading hockey romances, and I started reading S.J. Silvis. Weak Side is the book that is recommended a lot, and I thought Weak Side was okay. It's a hockey romance. But then I read the next 2 books in the series, which never get talked about, which are highly, 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 highly underrated, which is Ice Bet and Puck Blocked. And y'all, these 2 books are phenomenal. Ice Bet is a coach's daughter kind of enemies to lovers situation, and Puck Blocked is a brother's best friend romance, and still to this day remains my favorite brother's best friend romance. And I loved it. I'll probably reread it at some point because it just had my heart. I loved the characters, and 100% chef's kiss. It was wonderful. She did make a companion series to this, which I have read all of the ones in the companion series. The last one just came out at the end of 2025, and I've already read it, and I did like that series. I didn't love it as much as I loved these 2 books. Then I was still looking for great sports romance series, so I delved into another hockey romance series, and that is going to be the Playing for Keeps series. It starts with Consider Me by Becca Mack. I read Consider Me. It was fine. The male main character really gets annoying throughout the books, but anyway, this is a series that I would recommend reading in order from start to finish. Okay, can they be read as standalones? Yes. There are certain books in here I feel like you need to have the character development to understand what's going on. And the last book in the series that just came out in December, which is Breathe With Me, which is also on this list, needs to really be read after you've read all the others. So the second book in the series is a 5-star read for me, and this is Play With Me, and this is a brother's best friend romance. And I just loved these 2 characters so much. They spoke to my heart entirely. And then the other one in the series that I just talked about is the last book. It's Breathe With Me, which I don't have my copy yet, but I will be getting a copy of Breathe With Me. This is why I say that you need to read the books in order, because this is a found family, and the last book in the series, Breathe With Me, is about a couple that was already together at the beginning of the first book in the series. So we see them all throughout the series as a couple, but we really don't know how they got together, anything about them, until we read Breathe With Me. And so that book was so emotionally draining for me. It's a very emotional book. There were tears, lots of tears in Breathe With Me, and I love that book. 5 stars to both Play With Me and Breathe With Me, and I think that series is well worth your time. Continuing on with Hockey Journey, I found another series that I started reading by Angel Lawson, and she has, I just like this series. It's a college series. My favorite book in that series is Daring the Defender, and this is Brother's Best Friend as well. And I like the series all together. I will put the whole series up here somewhere. But Daring the Defender is one of my favorites. This is another found family. I do think this is one series that you probably could read. Every book reads as a standalone, but I think that this one you probably could read as a standalone without it being too bothersome. But Daring the Defender, Brother's Best Friend, I like that trope. I don't know why, but one of also just a great iteration of that. Love this. Love the characters. Okay, so I decided to dive into some dark romance. I read Lights Out this year. Didn't make it onto this list. I read a few dark romances this year, tippy-toeing myself in, and this one, of course, is one that gets a lot of hype. And this one had my heart. It had my heart. This is definitely kind of a taboo, forbidden, dark romance. And when I hear people talk about this book, oftentimes I'm like, I just didn't know what to expect going in. And I think it was a lot different than what I expected. Because you hear people talk about dark romance, taboo, it's forbidden, da da da, but you don't know what to expect. So that is going to be Still Beating by Miss Jennifer Hartman. This book, appropriately hyped. I used to think like some books are overhyped. This book, appropriately hyped, okay? This book is appropriately hyped. If you haven't read it, read it. If you have trigger warnings, check them. This book follows a girl who is out one night with her family. Her family goes home. Something happens and she can't drive herself home. It's in the middle of the night. And so she calls her sister's fiance, which by the way, they don't get along. They hate each other. So she calls her sister's fiance because he's the only one that will answer the phone. The sister's fiance comes and picks her up. Some things, they're arguing in the car and they basically get kidnapped together. And they are held captive. And that's all I can really say without spoiling it. But they're held captive. And so you see things that happen there. And then you see the after. And I'm telling you, check your trigger warnings. But this book right here, was wonderful. And 5 stars. 5 stars. Then I read a whole series. And the whole series I gave 5 stars. Okay. And most people, you will only hear, like if you're on TikTok or Instagram, YouTube, whatever you get your recommendations from. Mostly people talk about the first book in this series and they don't talk about any other books in the series, which I think is a crime because I gave every single book in this series 5 stars. I loved it. And that is going to be the series that starts with Camera Shy by Kay Cove. Y'all are sleeping on this series. Like, y'all might not be sleeping on this book, but you're sleeping on the rest of the series. And I loved the whole series. I think this is great body positivity. This specific book is following a girl who really has just been dumped by her fiance. She thought they were getting married. They've been together forever. And basically he tells her that her looks, she is not for him anymore. Her looks, her weight, everything. And so she is basically really down in the dumps and she has to kind of crawl her way back up to loving herself and loving her body again. And this book, read it 100%. Camera Shy by Kay Cove. The second one is Snapshot by Kay Cove, and the third one is Selfie by Kay Cove. Loved all of them. I feel like the characters are so relatable, so real, and I 100%, y'all are sleeping on this series. Okay, something that is going to shock people here. The Windy City series by Liz Tom 40. If you know anything about sports romances, or if you are on the TikTok or the Instagram or some reel somewhere, people are going to recommend this series. It's one of their favorite series of all time. I beg to differ. I am different. I read all the books in the series. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't like. But I read this book this year in 2025. And this was my first 5-star read from this author out of the series. And it had my heart. I had lost hope on this series because I gave a lot of books 3 stars. They were just fine. And then this book came. And it is Rewinded Back by Liz Tom 40. And it had my heart. It was a kind of a second chance romance, which sometimes I don't get along with those, but this one 100%, just the emotions. I love the male main character, I love the female main character, but the whole series is a found family, and so we know the male main character because specifically we've seen him throughout the other books, and so he has just always been one of my favorite characters in the series, and just getting his own book and then finding his own love, so cute, so adorable, loved it. my absolute favorites of the year of 2025. Okay. I read this book because I had seen so many people recommend this book, and I was like, well, let me just see if it's worth the hype. And I can tell you guys that this book is 100% worth the hype. I could not put this book down. I probably read it twice, even though I didn't count it twice, because there were scenes in here that I kept rereading. I should have just reread the whole book, but this is one of my favorite books of 2025 that I'm about to show you. So good. That's going to be the words by A. Jade. It's a chunky one. It's a very, very chunky one. I like romance, sometimes light and fluffy, but some romances that are emotional, that speak to you. And this one spoke to me in some kind of way. So this book, I didn't think I would like, because I'm reading the first chapters. I didn't really read much going in. I'm reading the first chapters like, oh, we're in high school. We're in high school. This is going to be like a high school romance. It is not a high school romance. But in the beginning, we are kind of seeing how our male main character and our female main character, how they meet. And they're in high school. Our female main character, of course, she's not the skinniest thing in the world. She is a geek. Nobody really, pays attention to her, all of the things. And our male main character, of course, he's the bad boy. He has all the women, And he needs help with passing an exam, I think. And she is recruited to help him do so. And they develop this friendship, which eventually turns into him more. And then he does something really terrible, and that's the end of it. He does something really terrible, and they part ways, and now she just absolutely despises him because he has done something terrible. All he wants to do is be a musician. That's all he's wanted to do in his whole entire life. And so then we flash forward like 4 years, and her dad has developed Alzheimer's and she had to drop out of school. She has to work at a bar and bartend because she is trying to pay for all of the bills now. It's all on her. And he has become a very, 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 very famous musician, lead singer, musician of a band. And he has gone off the rails. He is not a good person. I'll say that. He is not a good person. He has gone to drugs and alcohol. And basically, they've hired 1,000 people to kind of babysit him, sober companion, try to get him better. But it just hasn't worked. And they finally have, the mindset to hire the girl that literally hates him, because then he can't persuade her. He's a big famous musician, and a lot of the sober companions that he's hired previously, he's persuaded them to not get him in trouble, let him do things, or if they're female, he's just slept with them. Okay. So his management team has the bright idea to let's hire somebody that hates him, that wishes basically he would die. And so they hire Miss Lennon to be his sober companion because she absolutely 100% hates him. And it's so good. 100% would recommend this book. I will be rereading it at some point very, very soon, because this book had my entire heart in a chokehold. I read this so fast, even though it's so long. I read it so fast. And to all my plus-sized girlies, you have some representation in here. Okay. Then let's go to my number one reads of 2025, romance-wise. And again, hype series I tend to stay away from. But my book club was doing a buddy read of the first book in the series. So I was like, okay, I'll tag along, I'll do it. And then I got into a chokehold because I read Binding 13 thinking, there's no way in heck I'm going to like this. I went in blind. Completely blind. In fact, I read the first chapters and I was like, there's no way I'm going to like this. I ate this up. I devoured this. Then I went to Keeping 13, devoured that one too. Then I went to Saving 6, devoured. Then I went into Redeeming 6, devoured. Then I went into Taming 7, devoured. I have not read Releasing 10 because I have seen y'all's videos of y'all boohoo crying over it and that it has a cliffhanger, and so I'm waiting for the sequel that's supposed to come out in 2026 before I read Releasing 10. Okay? It tore my heart not to read Releasing 10, but I'm going to wait. But the emotions that this series has pulled out of me, and in fact, I have recommended it to some people at work, and now they hate me because I've pulled the emotions out of them, okay? This is God tier. This series is God tier. And not necessarily for the romance people, but for the emotions and the trauma that this, oh my gosh, this, woo! Listen here. if you have trigger warnings, check them before you read this series. But I went into this thinking it was just going to be a romance series. This is not, I would not say that the main focus of these series is romance. There's romance in here, okay? Obviously, these two books right here, Binding 13, Keeping 13, they are following our main couple, Johnny and Shannon, who are together. And then this Saving 6, Redeeming 6 is following Joey and Aoife and their love story. And then we just have Taming 7 here. It's going to have a sequel, but this is Gypsy, which is one of the side characters' story. But every single story has trauma. And I think if you have triggers, check them. If you don't have triggers, I will go in blind, because I feel like I went in blind and I felt like that was the best way to do it, because, oh, I fell in love. And these are chunky books. They're not anything short. I mean, these are 600-page books that I devoured, like one after the other. And I'll be rereading this series at some point. Because, y'all, just read it. Just read the series. I'm just trying to say that, and if I had to pick my favorite of this, I don't know. I really like Joey's story, Joey and Aoife. I like their story. But so emotional, such good character work, such good character development, the plot amazing. Again, I wouldn't say that I'm reading this book or loving this books because of the romance. It's not because of the romance. It is because of the plot. It is because of the emotions that are pulled out of me. It is the way Chloe Walsh has she shatters your heart. And I like authors that can do that. All the feels. This right here is hyped appropriately. Read these books. Go in blind, but check your trigger warnings. Okay, that's all of my favorite romances of 2025. I've been talking too long on here. But let me know some of your guys' favorite romances in 2025, and I will catch you guys in the next one.